On a cold morning in 1812, in a Prussian government office, a clerk sat down with a heavy ledger and a line of Jewish families waiting quietly at his desk. For 1,000 years, these families had needed no surname at all. A man was Isaac, son of Jacob, and that was enough for the community, enough for the synagogue, enough for God. But now the state had passed an edict. Every Jewish family would take a fixed, hereditary last name, and they would take it today, in this room, from this clerk. And in the space of a single morning, that clerk, and thousands of officials just like him across the German lands, handed out the names that millions of people carry to this very day, most of them never once suspecting where those names came from or why they were given. This was happening all across Central Europe. The Austrian Empire had ordered it back in 1787. Prussia followed in 1812. Wherever the decrees landed, Jewish families were suddenly required to choose or be assigned a permanent German surname. Some families were allowed to pick something beautiful: a rose mountain, a valley of lilies, a field of gold, a garden of flowers. Others, if they could afford it, quietly paid the clerk a bribe for a lovelier name. And the poorest, or the ones who rubbed an official the wrong way, could be saddled with something plain, or clumsy, or occasionally cruel. But here's the thing that clerk never understood as he worked his way down the line. Every single one of those names became something he never intended. A fingerprint. A hidden record of a Jewish origin, sewn forever into an ordinary-sounding German word. A word that would travel down through the generations long after the reason for it was forgotten. Today we're counting down 15 German surnames with documented Jewish history behind them. Some obvious once you know, some so ordinary you would never suspect in 100 years. If you have German ancestry and a family name you always assumed was simply German, stay to the very end, because number 1 looks like the plainest little word imaginable, and it is actually a 3,000-year-old sacred title in disguise. One honest warning before we begin, because this channel deals in truth, not wishful thinking. Many of these names are also carried by millions of non-Jewish Germans with no Jewish ancestry at all. A name is a clue, not a verdict. But a handful of the names on this list are so specifically, unmistakably Jewish that they rank among the strongest single markers you can ever find in a family tree. It helps to know that these names fall into a few clear families, because once you can see the categories, you start spotting them everywhere you look. First, there are the ornamental names, the invented, deliberately beautiful ones, built from words for gold and roses and flowers and mountains and stars. Rosenberg, Goldstein, Blumenthal. These were the pretty names families chose or quietly paid for in that government office. Second, there are the place names, taken directly from the town a family had come from: Oppenheimer, Epstein, Landau, Auerbach, because Jews were so often identified by where they had arrived from. Third, there are the patronymic names, built from a father's name like Mendelssohn, the son of Mendel. And fourth, rarest and strongest of them all, there are the priestly and Levite names: Cohen, Katz, Levi, Siegel, Kaplan, which don't merely suggest Jewish heritage. They point to descent from the specific ancient families who served in the temple in Jerusalem, and they have been carried, unbroken, for thousands of years. So, as we count down, keep one eye on which family each name belongs to. The ornamental names and the place names are clues worth investigating. The priestly names are something much closer to a signature. Let's start counting. Number 15. Rosenberg. It means Rose Mountain, and it is one of the classic so-called ornamental names handed to Ashkenazi families in exactly the kind of government office we just described. Beautiful, thoroughly German-sounding, and overwhelmingly Jewish in origin. When you meet a Rosenberg, you are very often meeting the descendant of a family that was named in a single administrative stroke 2 centuries ago. Number 14. Blumenthal, Valley of Flowers. Another lovely ornamental name from the very same era, carried by Jewish families across Germany and out into the wider diaspora. On the surface, it is a picture of the German countryside. Underneath, it is a marker of Ashkenazi heritage, a name chosen for its beauty by people who had precious little beauty handed to them by the state. Number 13. Grunbaum. Green tree, sometimes anglicized on this side of the Atlantic to Greenbaum. It is a textbook, ornamental Ashkenazi surname, the kind of nature word name that clerks handed out by the hundreds in a single week. If it's in your family, that green tree has deep roots. Number 12. Oppenheimer. Now we shift categories because this one is a place name from the German town of Oppenheim, and it is one of the most storied Jewish surnames in all of Germany, carried by rabbis, court financiers, and, most famously in our own time, the physicist who fathered the atomic age. Here is a rule worth remembering. When a German surname points back to a specific town like this, it very often points straight back to that town's Jewish community because Jews were so frequently named for the place they had come from. Number 11. Auerbach. Another town name, and a distinguished one throughout Jewish history, borne by generations of rabbis and scholars whose commentaries are still studied today. If Auerbach sits anywhere in your family tree, you are looking at a surname with deep and learned Ashkenazi roots. Quick pause right here because we're just getting to the big ones. If this is fascinating you, do me a quick favor and tap the like button. It genuinely helps this kind of hidden history reach the people who'd love it most. And if you want more of it every week, subscribe to Bloodlines and Borders. All right, back to the countdown. Number 10. Landau. From the town of Landau and one of the great rabbinical surnames of Central European Jewry, the name of a famous 18th century rabbi of Prague, among many others. It sounds utterly unremarkably German, and it carries centuries of Jewish learning folded quietly inside it. Number 9. Hirsch. On its face, it simply means deer or stag in German. But among Ashkenazi Jews, Hirsch was the everyday German stand-in for the Hebrew name Naphtali, because in the book of Genesis, the patriarch Jacob blesses his son Naphtali by comparing him to a deer let loose. So a German word for a woodland animal became, in Jewish families, the carrier of an ancient Hebrew name, a German word with a Hebrew soul. Number 8. Kahn, and its close cousin, Cohn. These look and sound like perfectly ordinary German names, but they are German spellings of Cohen, from the Hebrew Cohen, meaning priest, and they mark descent from the ancient priestly line that served in the temple in Jerusalem. A Kahn or a Cohn in your family is not a faint clue. It is one of the single strongest Jewish threads there is. Number 7. Epstein. A place name from a town near Frankfurt and one of the oldest and most widespread Ashkenazi surnames anywhere in the world. It spread across Europe and then across the Atlantic, and wherever it went, it carried its origins with it. If your family carries Epstein, its roots are almost certainly Jewish. Number 6. Rothschild, Red Shield. And its origin is astonishing in its ordinariness. It comes from the red shield that once hung as a sign over the family's house in the Jewish quarter of Frankfurt, centuries before they became the most famous banking dynasty in the history of the world. The name is, quite literally, a house sign from a ghetto street. It's a reminder that even the most recognizable of these names began as nothing more than an address in a place Jews were confined to. Number 5. Mendelssohn, son of Mendel. A patronymic name, a name built from a father's name, and a towering one carried by the great Enlightenment philosopher Moses Mendelssohn, and a generation or two later by his grandson, the composer Felix Mendelssohn. Even after parts of the family later converted to Christianity, the name itself remained a permanent monument to its Jewish origin. You cannot scrub the history out of a name like that. Number 4. Kaplan. It means chaplain in German and priest in Polish, and exactly like Cohen, it very often marks priestly descent. It is another perfect example of the whole pattern of this list. An ordinary-looking occupational surname that is, underneath the surface, one of the oldest markers in all of Judaism. Number 3. Saigal. It looks like a simple, unremarkable surname. It is, in fact, an acronym, a compressed Hebrew phrase, Sagen Leviah, meaning assistant to the Levites. Saigal marks descent from the tribe of Levi, the ancient servants of the temple. Think about that. An entire Hebrew title, folded down into a single German-sounding surname and carried in secret plain sight for centuries. You genuinely cannot get much more specifically Jewish than a name that is literally a Hebrew sentence in disguise. Number 2. Levi, also spelled Levi. It is one of the oldest surnames on the entire planet, marking direct descent from the tribe of Levi, the tribe set apart to serve in the temple 3,000 years ago. It is worn today by millions, and yes, a few non-Jewish lines carry it too. But Levi remains one of the most unmistakable Jewish names in the world, a living thread running straight back to the foot of an ancient altar. And number 1, cats? Look at it. It is the German word for cat. Millions of people who carry it assume that is exactly, obviously, where it comes from. A nickname, a cat, nothing more. It is not. Katz is an acronym of the Hebrew phrase Kohen Tzedek, meaning righteous priest. It is a priestly name in perfect disguise, one of the strongest markers of Jewish descent that exists anywhere, hidden inside the most ordinary, harmless little word imaginable. If your name is Katz, you are almost certainly carrying the name of the ancient temple priesthood. And for generations upon generations, most families named Katz had absolutely no idea what they were really holding. Go back one last time to that clerk in 1812, working his way down the line, handing out names by the morning full, never once dreaming that 2 centuries later, a machine would let a grandchild trace one of those names straight back to him, and then straight past him, to a synagogue, a ghetto, a priestly line reaching all the way to the ancient temple. The names outlived the persecution. They outlived the expulsions. They outlived the forgetting itself. And if one of them is yours, it may be trying to tell you something your family stopped saying out loud a very long time ago. If that's you, if a name on this list just made your stomach drop a little, I don't want you to let that feeling quietly fade away by tomorrow morning. I built a discovery kit called Your Jewish Roots to help you actually run it down. It teaches you to read a surname like a genealogist, to make real sense of a DNA test, and to find the actual records, the community registries, the census rolls, the archives that turn a hunch into proof. It comes with a companion database of 270 documented Jewish surnames and what each one truly reveals, so you can look up every single name in your family tree tonight. It's linked in the description and pinned right at the top of the comments. So tell me down below, is your name on this list? Which one caught you off guard? Drop it in the comments. I read them. And thank you sincerely for watching all the way through. If your name turned out to be a clue, the natural next question is what other signs your family might be carrying. So I've put exactly that video right here on your screen for you. It's playing now. Go find out.